thanks for doing this. Congratulations on the new album. It's time flies. So it was out, last Friday. Did you do anything exciting?
Yes. On Thursday night, I did a live stream on Twitch where I did a full band performance for a couple of hours. So that was sort of in celebration of the album coming out. And that was, And then on Friday, I just had a chill day. It was great.
Yeah, excellent. So what's it like doing a live thing on Twitch? I have no idea what that must be like.
It was actually amazing. Like, I've been streaming on Twitch for about a year now, but I've just been streaming my gaming. So I've been wanting to cross over into the music stuff for a while. And it felt like a gig. And because I've been doing it for a year, gaming with my community on Twitch, I know the way it works. I know the format, and I like loads of the people that were chatting. I recognize that, I know them, we're friends. So it was just a really nice feeling. Like, it felt like a gig with friends,
Very cool.
I enjoyed it.
Now, I gotta admit, I have no experience with gaming at all. I mean, I played some video games back in the 70s, and that was about it. So I apologize for not knowing anything about it. But I read about the fact that you're into this gaming thing, and it sounds like a fantastic way of kind of rejigging your energies and the way you're thinking about what you're doing. So tell me how the gaming affects what we hear with the music.
I think the gaming for me was quite crucial. Like, I've always been a gamer. It's sort of like a form of escapism. I don't know. I'm drawn to the colors and the movement and the lights, all of that stuff, the sounds. And with the pandemic happening, I sort of I turned to Twitch for just to try and feel connected to other people. And then I realized it was quite an important way for me to connect with my fans, like-minded people. And it really did affect the way I finished the record anyway, because I was I had this, I don't know, I felt way more connected. I felt like I had a direct line.
Right.
So I was still finishing the record when I started streaming on Twitch, and it was, I don't know, it was just a really good feeling. It was positive. It reminded me that people cared, and sometimes you need that reminder. Absolutely.
Because it's been a while since the previous records. It's been about 2016 was Wild Things, but you've been through quite a bit since that album came out. There's been health issues. You've got a baby. You've gone through so tell me what we hear in the record that kind of comes from what you've gone through in the past 3 or 4 years.
I think I sort of started the record with this feeling of just being really grateful to be there and to be in the studio making music. Like, I was just so happy to be doing it, and I'd lost that overthinking aspect of myself that sort of followed me around my whole life.
Right.
I sort of just let go of that and was just really enjoying every moment of it and just trying to have fun. And I also, being a mum now, like my daughter's just turned 4. That sort of gave me a new perspective on everything as well. There's a track called Take It Easy Mama on the album, which is literally about mums and how tired you can feel and how much you do for your kid.
Take it easy, mama. You've had enough today. And you know that life won't go your way. Slow it down now, mama. You're working way too hard. And my life ain't easy anymore.
Yeah, I've heard of dad rock, but now we're talking about mom rock as well.
Mom rock, yeah, I'm here for it.
There you go. Fantastic. So I see you on one track, at least on Guilty Love, you've kind of done a collaboration with Broods. So how did that come about, and how did you guys work together?
So I was working with Tommy English in LA. We'd known each other for years. He produced my Wild Things record, and he'd also worked with the Broods, and I'd been wanting to work with Georgia for ages. We'd been meaning to connect. always in LA at the same time. And finally one day me and Tom were in the studio, and he was like, hey, Georgia's going to come over. And I was like, yay, finally. So she sort of came over at the sort of like end of a session. So it was like the end of a day. And we just sat down and hung out and talked, and found like a lot of common ground. And that's sort of how that all came about, just mutual friends, really.
Cool. So when you were putting this record together and thinking about how it was going to sound and feel, what kind of process did you go through in your own head? Did you have a certain something that you wanted to accomplish musically?
I actually didn't this time. I had, all I know when it comes to making music is I love nostalgia. That's just, I don't know, it's my whole, I'm a dreamer.
Right.
I just love nostalgia, and I think that's always key for me. And like, especially for this album, it was like stronger than ever. So I was like, I gotta, whatever I do, as long as I can create a feeling of nostalgia that while I'm doing it, that's all I want to do.
And you're a different age than me, so your nostalgia is different than what I think of. So when you say nostalgia, where do you go back to?
Oh, I go back to like all different times of my life. I feel nostalgic for, my childhood when I was a kid growing up, listening to the radio and watching, music TV, when I would like get my VHS tapes and tape music videos. I would make a compilation. Yeah. I would get nostalgic for that. My teen years where I was like, really into like grunge and rock and metal and hip hop, but I was just experimenting with all different sounds. I get nostalgic for like when I was living in Australia and like, meeting Nick Littlemore for the first time and getting all these new friends that I had around me in Australia and starting Ladyhawke, and I'm just always nostalgic for stuff that's happened in the past.
Well, that's what nostalgia is all about.
Exactly. I try to cling on to the good times,
Right. Well, in fact, I find that it seems that younger people write more nostalgic. If you think about songs like Paul McCartney writing Yesterday, which is an extremely nostalgic song. He was like 21 when he wrote that, and it's sad, pining for the good old days kind of thing. It's a strange thing, but it's something about somebody who's in their 20s and early 30s that it kind of gloms onto that. I don't know.
I know. I think it's because you suddenly realize you're like not a kid anymore. It's right. Like, oh, hang on, I'm like an adult now, and I've got feelings.
Something like an adult, yes.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to be.
There you go. And I see you have a couple of videos that you made for the album, as My Love and Think About You, which are the first two tracks. So how involved are you in the visualization of the songs?
I love sort of like if there's someone who wants to pitch an idea, I love being all across it. Like if I don't like the idea and if I can't sort of like see it fitting with my song or it seems wrong, I won't go with it. So yeah, I'm definitely all over it. And I do like sort of really carefully thinking about who makes a video for me. Because it doesn't always turn out the way you want it. So right. So you got to at least hope to get somewhere close.
Well, I noticed there was some nice cake in the one about Think About You, so that's always a plus.
Oh yeah.
If there's cake
a lot
involved,
of cake and red wine. Yeah.
You said you always knew, baby, it takes one to know one. So you held both my hands and you looked me in the eyes and you sung these words back to me.
The track Mixed Emotions, I noticed it has a very cool bass groove to it, something going on there. And also it looks like, is that Kaz Basil who's playing, or at least she's in the video? I don't know.
You're giving mixed emotions. I'm waiting on you. You're giving mixed emotions, and we can make it tonight. You're used to making me fight.
Yeah, she's in the video. She's not playing on the track, but she plays in my live band.
Right? Oh, cool. So tell me about the song and making the video and working with Kaz. All that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sweet. All right. Well, so I made Mixed Emotions when I was in LA working with Tommy, but I didn't actually make it with Tommy. I was working with Nick Littlemore. We just sort of hadn't worked together for years, and he booked out a studio for a week and we just hopped in there and made music for a whole week, and it was going to be for something else. And on this one particular day, we got our old mate Jono Sloanen, who produced Empire of the Sun. He's sort of does all this stuff with them, and me and Jono have been friends as long as me and Nick. So it was just like old mates, and Jono had the bass hook, and he was like, let's write a song around this. So played the bass hook, and then that's how Mixed Emotions came about. And and then Brett Walton had the idea for the video of the elevator, just sort of repeating all these like different scenarios, which I loved. I thought it was a really, really cool idea. And I was like, well, I want to get Cass in the video, you know, because she's in my live band, and people always like, who's that cool bass player? And I was like, cool. Yep, that's Cass. She's as cool as they come, really.
So who else is in your band?
I've got Alex Freer on drums. He goes by the name of AC Freezy in his solo stuff. Jeremy Toy as well. Oh, yeah. He's my MD. Yep. And Tom Healy plays synths and stuff. And so it's just a really cool first time I've had a Kiwi band, which is awesome. Yeah, and they're a fantastic band, so I'm really enjoying it. So
when you tour and you say Jeremy is your kind of musical director, which makes sense because he's been doing everything with everybody over the years. And you obviously have a legacy, a body of work to work with that people are going to expect to hear. So do you have to talk to Jeremy and the band and how you're going to present these now? And are you approaching them differently than you would have 15 years ago?
Yeah, I've got so much more material now. So it's all, it's really all based on where I'm playing and what the set length is. So because I'm about to, you know, fingers crossed, come up to all these festivals in New Zealand and Australia, festival sets range anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, depending on where you are or how late they're running. So I sort of, it all depends on that. It's crazy. So I sort of try and have like 18 to 20 songs rehearsed and ready to go, and then we can edit that down depending on the set length.
Yeah. And are you a different performer now than you were, say, in My Delirium days?
Oh, like completely different. You couldn't get two completely different people. Like I had just no self-confidence back then and was just so shy, and I just found it so hard. I was really struggling at the time with everything and performing, and just I'd really struggled, and it's taken me years to get to where I am now, but I just enjoy myself now. Like I think like the other night playing that show on Twitch, I think that's the most fun I've ever had in my life, playing a show, and it's just because of where I am in my life, you know.
Right. So I'm guessing that a lot of people go, not to minimize your experience, but a lot of people are terrified of being on stage, but yet they have this urge to create and to perform. So what can you advise them to think about, or how to change their way of thinking in order to make it easier on themselves?
I think like one of the things is that like that always helped me was that, you know, when people come to a live show, they love the fact that it's live. Right. So you messing up or making a mistake, which was always my fear. Right. They love that because they're like, oh, we just saw this like special thing that happened, and yay, it's really like, you know, it's like part of a live show. And I remember that's something that really helped me as I say to my band all the time, I'm like, don't worry about messing up, because I don't care. Like it doesn't bother me. It's fun. Let's just have fun. And the audience they find it. If we make a mistake and we crack up and have to start again, they love it. They find it funny, and like it's all part of the live show. So that's how I got there in the end.
Very good. Well, I was watching Taylor Swift's performance on Saturday Night Live. She did this big long 10-minute song, and I was listening to a podcast where these critics in the US were kind of picking it apart, the performance. And I hadn't, at the time that I was listening to the podcast, I hadn't seen the performance. And they were like, oh yeah, she was a little pitchy here. And I'm like, oh, well, usually it's pretty slick for stuff like that. But then I watched the thing and it was amazing. And there was like, you just got to wonder what the point is. And the performance itself was extremely powerful. So that's the main thing, I would think. And you can sit there go, somebody missed a note halfway through a 10-minute song, maybe.
It's not necessary. It's like, that's the whole thing. You're human. No one's perfect. We're not, no one like this. It's just the way it is. And it's, I think it's something that should be applauded, because you're going out there and you're just getting on with it, regardless of like, some artists like push through all sorts of things to do a live show, like, illnesses, sore throats. Like I've the amount of times I myself have played with a flu, or and you just do it anyway.
Yep. Well, speaking of Taylor Swift, I mean, she's re-recorded her albums because she didn't have the control over the original versions, so she's kind of taken control back. Yeah. Adele has just released her album, and apparently she made an agreement with Spotify, because apparently Spotify switches the order of the tracks around it and just plays them randomly, and now they don't for if you're a premium user or something. So it seems like, especially a certain amount of high-profile women are actually asserting themselves the way their music is being presented and the way they're being treated. So I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts about that.
Oh, I think it's great. It's been so hard for a long time, like getting taken seriously as a female artist, no matter where you are in the pyramid of popularity. It's like you still struggle. Like it's almost like the more successful you are, the harder you have to work to be taken seriously, which is really unfair. And it's great that Adele and Taylor Swift are standing up for themselves and using their like platform and voice to help others. I think it's awesome.
Right. So I assume you ran into some of this stuff over the course of your career.
Oh.
Were you surprised about it, or were you expecting it to be that way?
I was expecting it, but I wasn't expecting it to be quite as bad as what it was, and
really?
Quite as crushing. Yeah. Oh yeah, it was bad. Yeah, especially when around me doing my first record.
Right.
Just the stuff that got said to me is just like just crushing, and just like I was too old. I was in my 20s. I got told I was too old. I had to lie about my. Oh, it was just terrible. I was told I wasn't allowed to be seen holding my girlfriend's hand, all this sort of stuff. Like it was just, it affected me so much that it took me years to get over, and I still like talk about it in therapy and stuff. It's like, it's crushing, and it's like, I'm not the only one that's happened to. That's happened to hundreds and if not thousands of artists,
Yep. So do you think it's getting better, or we're making progress?
I hope so. Yeah, a lot of younger artists I've spoken to haven't encountered the sort of things that, sorry, my daughter's knocking on the door, things that I've gone through. Yeah.
They're going to do what they want.
Yeah.
Interesting. All righty. Well, and you also have an official game now, right? Is that a video game? So tell me about your game.
Yeah, I was going to actually, it's for a Game Boy. So it's like, if you've got a Game Boy,
right.
This is like a classic old Game Boy. And, it was a surprise. Like my record label know how big gaming is for me and how much of a huge part of my world it is. So they surprised me by getting, they actually got to make a game for a Game Boy cartridge. Like, and they didn't want to tell me until it was actually confirmed it was going to happen.
Right. Don't want to get your hopes up high.
Yeah, exactly. Because I would have. Yeah. And it happened. And yeah, so it's a cartridge. You can buy the cartridge, and it's been made by a really cool game designer. And it's basically sort of in the style of the old school Pokemon games from like 20 years ago. Right. And it's been all the music in it is chip tunes made by Jeremy Toy of my songs off Time Flies.
Right.
So he's like, I think it's like 6 or 7 tracks. He's converted them and made them painstakingly himself into chip tunes to like sound like the original sort of Game Boy sounds.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
All righty. I'm sure they're flying out of the warehouses. Hopefully you're selling a bunch of them.
It's pretty niche.
Do you have them on your merch table when you're doing the gigs?
That's a good point. That's a great thing to have on the merch table. I haven't even thought about merch tables in a while. So I think I'm going to have to.
Well, rumor has it that's where all the money is to be made these days.
I know, exactly.
Fantastic. Well, hopefully we'll get to see your merch table soon.
I hope so.
will see when the tour gets to Auckland. We're opening up here sometime in the next few weeks.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Fingers crossed. We'll see what happens. Because yeah, it sounds like the band's going to be awesome, and the album, hopefully the album is selling like hotcakes, as they say.
Yeah, I hope so.
All righty. Thank you very much for talking to me.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. See you later.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.